And I believe Ms. Val is waiting to. So like I said, we are already in session. We'll begin with the Spirit of Excellence recognition. Good evening and welcome to our Spirit of Excellence Award segment. This is a time where we recognize outstanding students and staff who are truly making an impact. Tonight, we want to recognize an SLPS alum. We don't do that too often, but this individual certainly rises to that occasion. Dr. Adams mentioned this young man at our last work session, and he has achieved something very, very special. Jamal Burns, a Gateway STEM graduate and current senior at Duke University, has been named a Rhodes Scholar, arguably the most prestigious scholarship in the world. What this means for Jamal is that he will now be able to study for up to 3 years, all expenses paid, at the University of Oxford in England. Jamal is a history major and plans to study social anthropology and comparative education. To give you an idea of how competitive this program is, this year, 953 students applied and 32 were awarded scholarships. We are so excited for Jamal and his family and want to also thank his many teachers and counselors at Gateway STEM that mentored and encouraged this special student. Congratulations, Jamal. We will now move into our regular meeting agenda. We do typically have time for public comments, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we invite those to be submitted to the following email address prior to the start of the board meeting, which is slpsinfo@slps.org. All of those comments are then posted on the website alongside the link to view this rebroadcast. This will remain in effect until we return to normal in-person public meetings with public comment. With that, Dr. Adams, I will turn it over to you.
Good evening to the board and to the public. Good evening. We are at that exciting time in the school year where we begin to find out what our seniors will be doing after graduation. Tonight, I'm happy to announce that 4 of our seniors have been awarded full 4-year scholarships through the Quest Bridge National College Match Program. They are as follows. Asanto Mabek of Sodan High School, who was matched with Washington University. Benjamin Nasdar of Metro High School, who also was matched with Washington University. James Mosley of Collegiate School of Medicine and Bioscience, who was matched with Dortmund University. And Lorene Tran, also Collegiate, who was matched with the University of Pennsylvania. The Quest Bridge program matches high-achieving students from low-income backgrounds to the nation's top colleges. Congratulations to these students and their families. Lastly, this is a reminder to the public. Surveys went out on yesterday via email asking all district families to select in-person or virtual instruction for their students for Q3, which begins on January the 4th. Although the students will not come back in person until January the 11th, we want to extend that time because of families being together. Please be sure to fill out the survey completely and get it back to us so we can finalize preparations to restart school on Monday, January 4th, 2021, following the winter break. Those are my comments at this time, Madam President, board, and public.
Thank you. So you, I believe, are postponing the financial update to be at the meeting next week in line with the audit presentation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So then do you have any additional remarks on the school update?
Just simply to notify the board that we are back in person for students and families who choose to come back as of Monday, the 7th. Students will remain in school for the next 2 weeks. We are surveying, as you heard me say, to the public, families for them to determine if they want to come back on January the 11th, effectively January the 4th. They'll be virtual for 1 week, and then they'll come to back in person on the 11th. That's what we are doing at this point in time. We have been, as I said, surveying. I think we've received in the last 24 hours approximately 2,200 surveys that have come back. About 52% are indicating that they want to come back in person right now. We will wait for that data to come in, but even families that are in right now in person have to determine if they want to come back for the third quarter, which begins in January, back in person. That's the information I have at this point in time. No other information at this time, Madam President or Board, unless the Board has any questions regarding Restart.
Just a very quick one. Does this include middle and high?
Yes, ma'am. This includes everybody in the entire district. Yes, ma'am.
For the consent agenda, are there any items that members wish to take separately? So I move that we accept the December 8th, 2020 consent agenda. That's items 1208-2001 through 1208-2004. Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or discussion? Ms. Bell?
Ms. Fowler?
Yes.
Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Ms. D. Jones?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. Bowell?
Yes.
Ms. S. Jones? Yes. Ms. Rhodey Collins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
I'm sorry. I believe we have a presentation from the Mission and Vision Committee.
Yes, is it okay for us to go to the podium as we have a PowerPoint?
Sure, of course.
Okay, thank you. We're asking that all members come to the podium as to present your portions. Thank you for giving this time to us. Our goal to, however you want to do it. Oh, yeah. However you want, our goal tonight is just to give you the introduction or of the what we propose as the board's vision and mission. And we have a few slides to go through. Dr. Roberts will start out.
Dr. Roberts, could you use the mic? Thank you.
The Board of Education for the City of St. Louis was given governance 2 years ago. And at that time, we were operating under what was in place, SAB and district-wide. And so over time, it became evident that it was important that we came together and rallied around a common vision and mission statement, something that we developed as a team and something that was our very own. And I'm happy to say that the purpose would be to help focus the board on our governing role as a unified body, help distinguish the mission and vision for governing policy versus functioning procedures, or what I would like to say operations, which is under the superintendent. It unifies the board's understanding of how we will operate and what we will reach for. And finally, there's a need to unify around a central vision. What's already in place is not something that we've created and are vested in.
From a document sent to us about effective school boards, and they just said effective school boards have strong shared beliefs and values about what is possible for students and their ability to learn, and of the system and its ability to teach all children at high levels. Then that same document said the effective school boards lead as a unified team with the superintendent, each from their respective roles, and strong collaboration and mutual trust. So basically, boards that are effective work together. They are respectful and they work from a common theme, and we believe a common mission and vision helps us get to that common theme. The process we went through is that first of all, the board approved that we have this ad hoc vision mission committee. And when we first met, we thought about how best to get the input of the other board members and as well as Dr. Adams, because he is part of this team. And so we decided, instead of trying to interview all of you guys, we'd send out a survey. And I appreciate that you all responded to the survey. We really appreciate that. And from that survey, we were really able to see some recurring themes from all the board members. Some key phrases that we heard were student achievement and good quality education. And so those things we decided that we needed to address in the proposed mission and vision. Other key words were communication, transparency, honesty, trust, integrity, accountability, participation, and being respectful to one another. We decided as a team that we would forward those words to the governance committee, because the governance committee is already developing a code of ethics and governing documents, and they're already considering each and every one of those words. So we focused on that first set of keywords: student achievement, good quality education. And from that, the survey we gathered, we were able to come up with a proposed vision and mission, and Adam will talk about that.
So for the proposed mission and vision statements, we had plenty of discussion about what key phrases and keywords, as Ms. Fowler already stated, that we thought were important. And we also spent a lot of time delineating the difference, or figuring out the difference between a mission and vision. We landed as the mission is something that we are committed to, something that we have to do, and is at the core of the services we provide, and the vision is the exemplar of how we want to see that carried out. So I'll read it aloud. Our mission statement, as proposed, the Board of SLPS will govern to ensure students are fully prepared to be competent and valuable contributors to a global society by ensuring students are provided with innovative and high quality public education. So at our core function, at the base, this is what we want to make sure we are doing. And we've taken the standpoint both for the mission and vision to make sure that we're staying within the role of Board of Governors and not overstepping that bounds into process and procedure. And so our vision statement is what we want to be true, given the mission that we have, is that the SLPS board will govern boldly to ensure students in the district meet and exceed local, state, and federal standard achievement levels. It will govern and advocate for collaboration with organizations, leaders, and businesses in our region to provide students with innovative and high quality educational experiences. This is a vision that we would like to, again, we're presenting it to the board as a whole right now. This is something we want to dissect and dive into to talk about what that means in terms of our operations. And as we pass it on to the governance committee, how we ensure we are upholding this standard.
So of course, we could answer any questions, or if you guys want to digest this a little bit, we could come back and talk about this. In January, we did want to present something before the end of the year, because while we set this mission and vision, we know that it's Dr. Adams and his team that actually decides exactly how it's going to be done. I just finished the training that we have to go through, and one of the last training sessions on school operations, they said that it's important that the board have a mission and vision, but then the district has to carry it out in their processes and procedures. So before we start our next 5-year plan, it seemed important that there be some understanding of where we are to be now and where we hope to be through our vision. So.
I did have a question. Congratulations, you did a wonderful job, and I appreciate all the hard work you put into it. But I do have a question about this portion of the statement where you're saying we will govern with our collaboration with organizations, leaders, and businesses in our region. And I don't know, for me, I want to see the focus more so on like students, families, staff, and voters versus this other group. Because we've been working with organizations and leaders and businesses forever and basically getting the same results. And I don't know, I know we're advocating for the students, but to collaborate or to empower the students, the families, and the staff, and the voters seem important as well, if you could include that in your statement.
Yeah, I definitely think that that makes sense. And thank you for elevating that, Donna. We did talk about the scope of SLPS. I think there were some assumptions that we took. And one of those assumptions is that, again, from a governance level, we are trusting whoever our superintendent and the district to enact certain things and perform some certain responsibilities. And then as a governing body for this district, we assumed a level of interaction between students, families, and our community. But community engagement is something that we did talk about. And I think that we do need to reconsider as a governance committee how we connect with our community, what are our norms, so to speak, when we talk, when we don't talk, how we communicate, and what we want that relationship to be. I think could be a great part of including in the vision.
And I'd like to add to what Adam just said. There are some things that we do as elected officials that are givens, and they're not necessarily a part of the vision. We interact with voters. That's how we come to be a part of the board. We're advocates for the district, but the hard work of collaborating in such a way that it impacts students, we leave to our superintendent of schools. And we know that we're doing that at a high level because there's an inordinate number of MOUs that we approve on a regular basis, if that helps.
Yeah, the idea is that once we come up with what our vision and mission is, Dr. Adams, as he goes through the 5-year plan, he will, of course, include those students and parents because they are the ones who actually deal with them more on a regular basis with his staff. So yeah.
So I would like some clarification because it sounds like this mission would be what Dr. Adams is tasked with carrying out. That feels a little confusing to me because then he has 2 separate missions and 2 separate visions. And it's also my understanding that if we have our own mission and vision for the board, we would be the only school in the state of Missouri, the only district in the state of Missouri that has a separate one for ourselves and a separate one for the district. And it feels to me like that is confusing and it's probably an opportunity for division between the board and the administration. And that I think is concerning. So I'm wondering how you might reconcile those things.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you said that, especially after just recently completing the training, and there was the constant conversation about the board itself, because governance needs to be separate from procedure. The board itself needs to have some value statements on their own, whether they call it value statements, vision and mission, it may be different, but they, throughout the training, it was a constant. The board first needs to know how they're going to operate in their form of governance before the district, and the district needs to know how they're going to operate in the area of process, getting it done, the how it's done. So I don't think it's unique that boards have a set of value statements that exist maybe in their code of ethics or so forth, but it seemed pretty common that the board had some form of identifying statements that separated governance from the process, the how. And so we just chose that we call ours the mission and the vision for our board and how we will govern. So I think they do have other things. They may not call it exactly that. So
I mean, I agree with you that we do need guiding documents as to how we govern, but we do already have those. And so we're adding another layer here. I think, I've been saying this for some time. I am of the belief that what we need to do is update the vision and mission for the district, as that our policy actually says that the mission and vision of the board is the mission and vision of the district. And so if we're doing something different, we also have to address the policy angle. But, it seems to me that a unifying mission and vision is really important. So we all are kind of using the same plan. And then perhaps maybe what needs to happen is an updating or complete overhaul even of norms, code of ethics, and those other things that we already have. I'm just concerned about adding additional layers here.
I understand that it may be confusing if you take that point of view. But as I've read through what St. Louis Public Schools currently have, my discussions with Dr. Adams, and just really paying attention to his PowerPoint presentation, there are some things that we've included in this draft version of the mission and vision that he's included in his presentation for the community. And we are all aligned in terms of providing a quality education for young people. That's what the board does on the governance level. And it becomes the role of the superintendent to use that guiding principle in the guiding principle that he will implement across the district. And so we are in alignment even with this draft version, because our ultimate goal is to provide a quality education so that our kids can participate on a global level. So there is no real disconnect.
I have a suggestion, actually. One of the key words I believe that the vision statement is missing is the word community. You have organization, leaders, and businesses, but community is what encompasses a lot of what that already says. So I think that word should definitely be in that statement and should never be left out, as we are using that as a reference point to making the best decisions for our students.
And I don't disagree with that. And I'm just hoping that all of the verbal recommendations that we're given are the ones that you submitted back in terms of what we could do to strengthen the draft version. And so while we're hearing from you, I hope that you remitted those suggestions to our chairperson so that we can retool and then bring it up again.
So Joyce, you requested in certain ways that you want this information, but you guys are presenting and we have the floor. And so like you guys expect for other people to do, always be open for suggestions and be able to take it down, which is a short suggestion.
No, and I think that your suggestion is actually well taken. I think we actually, Ms. Donna also said, and Adam's response is, yeah, we definitely need to include that in our vision. So we will definitely take that back.
And I think you guys have done a great job.
And represent it with community, because yeah, and I know in our minds, and as we were talking, we constantly talked about community and actually left the word out. So I think that's actually a great suggestion from both, and something we would definitely re-engineer the statement to make sure that community is there. So, yeah.
A good job, everybody.
Thank you. So what we proposed.
This is Natalie. Can I ask a question?
Oh, yes, Natalie.
Hey, so I'm just wondering what the final execution of this is going to look like. Is it going to be like a separate document that would go with our core governance documents, or are you seeing it as, part of an informal process that we use, or how would this be implemented, and how would we use, how would we keep ourselves accountable to upholding these vision and mission documents if they're going to be implemented?
Well, the vision and mission are just statements. And as we talked as a committee, is that we would turn those over to the governance committee to be included in the governance documents as the leading statements in the governance documents. That's how we envision it. And I think considering this is an ad hoc committee only to accomplish this, the goal is that we would turn it over to the governance committee to complete their job of code of ethics and all the other things that the governance committee is actually dealing with. Does that
Okay,
answer
so-
your question?
Yeah, so you're seeing this as work that would be done by the governance committee and incorporated into the existing core documents rather than creating a new document that stands alone, if I'm
Absolutely.
understanding.
Absolutely, yes.
Thanks.
So our next steps, and you guys can have more questions, is that we take what you guys said and go back and re-engineer these statements to include what we're hearing right now, community, students and parents. We believe that's part of the process, and the how, and the expectation is that Dr. Adams would make sure that those strong statements are there in the how. And so we're not looking for a vote, it's just to present it. And of course, like Dr. Roberts said, there's still more time. If you come up with other thoughts, do email me. And before we have that next meeting, we could make sure we include all of that stuff in there. And then hopefully in January, we present a final statement to be decided upon.
And then the last thing I'll say in response to Natalie's comment too, one thing that we talked about as a committee, the current governance documents read more like a policing document and a list of don'ts. And one thing that we think as the governance committee takes this into consideration, that's just not a very inspiring list. It doesn't tell us what we should be doing, how we should be acting, how we should be interacting. But if this vision and mission can be infused into that or have that revamped in a way that incites us to action and inspired action, that would be a high level goal. Would you all agree?
And I just want to thank Adam and Dr. Roberts. They were amazing committee members. They just were so thoughtful and thought-provoking as they discussed, but also very important was your comments from the survey, just so incredibly thoughtful and thought-provoking. And we really appreciate the level of participation in that. And that really everybody, all of you guys participated, and we really appreciate that.
Would you like this placed on the January meeting agenda?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I believe the next item is ad hoc budget committee report.
The ad hoc budget committee met last Friday. All members were in attendance. We received a presentation from Ms. Banks and her team. It was the second of 3 presentations that we're expecting. So it was recommended that we have one more presentation for the committee's understanding moving forward about the ways in which the district conducts its financial affairs and how we can make that a transparent, equitable process. So while we're still in this place of learning, the second part of our meeting was a conversation around the goals of the ad hoc budget committee, which I'll restate the one that's pertinent to this conversation. But one of the goals was to determine whether or not there was a need for a standing committee on a standing budget committee. So a standing committee that would be dedicated to understanding the district's financial practices and making sure that those are displayed for our community in a transparent and, again, equitable way. So it was an overwhelming majority of the board. I think everyone agreed that that is something that we want. But in addition, the committee also agreed that it would be beneficial to get that last financial presentation and then also to formalize a motion that would turn the current ad hoc budget committee into a standing budget committee, complete with new goals and objectives moving forward. In addition to that, the ad hoc budget committee, given the last extension, is due to end this month. So the committee wants to ask the board for an extension for 2 more months. Month 1 would be that last final presentation from Ms. Banks and the Finance Department. And then month 2 would be to formalize the language around the goals for the standing committee and the motion to turn the ad hoc budget committee into a standing committee. If there are any questions, I'll take them.
I would just say maybe if we choose to change the committee from ad hoc to standing, which I actually agree with, that we just consider it the finance committee, because that way that committee could deal with the audit and the budget and anything related to finance versus just the budget, and making that a permanent committee as a whole.
There's currently a finance committee?
I think what she's proposing is that we would, Jeff, I'm gonna come to you in a second, that we would create a new committee that would be finance, that would be audit, that would be all things finance, so budget and audit. So there would no longer be a individual audit committee. The question for you, Mr. St. Omer, is I know that our audit requirements are guided by city. Do you, off the top of your head, no pressure, know if we have to have a separate committee for that? And we can look this up too. You don't have to answer tonight.
I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I can look that and get that information back.
Thank
to the
you.
board.
I just want to say, and I may be able to answer this, I worked for a governmental entity for 19 years, and I serve on another board that's a governmental entity, and both of those entities had finance committees that dealt with audit, budget, and anything finance, and it was a permanent committee. So
Yep. So there are, I would say most school boards would do it that way. I just know that our audit requirement is unique to us. And so it's not every school district, it's us. So there are some special things. But you're absolutely right. I think most school districts, actually, when I was looking at creating the ad hoc budget committee, looked at a number of other districts and the way they do it, and that is pretty typical. So it's a great recommendation, and we'll look into that. Is there a motion as it pertains to the extension of the budget committee?
Well, before that, on the audit committee, so being on that committee, I know the meetings are more infrequent. And then also thinking about the potential goals of, even if it's a general finance committee, thinking about how the audit members would show up in a space and feel equipped to have a conversation, I think is different from the ad hoc budget committee as it stands. So I don't know what it would be like to blend those two realms.
So I think if I'm understanding Regina correctly, she is kind of recommending a complete disbanding and restructuring of a brand new committee. Dr. Adams, you look like you want to say something.
Yes, the audit committee, the internal audit committee was specifically put in place relative to the audit only, not for any other purpose. And so the persons who were recruited for that committee were strictly around having a financial background and for audit oversight. And so it is a different purpose than what's being defined here. And we can look at the documents that Mr. St. Omer will look at, but I think some of it's aligned to the city of St. Louis requirements, but I also think some of it is aligned to the transparency that this group is supposed to have, separate and apart from anything to do with finance or budget. It looks specifically at the audit only. That's their only function. And so I will agree with Mr. Lang in this lens that it's a totally separate purpose. And so I think once Mr. St. Omer does some digging, you'll find that that was a special audit committee separate and apart from anything to do with the district's finances or budget. It does oversight and look at all of those things. And if there are any kind of legal requirements that this entity also looks at as well.
Thank you. That's helpful.
So I'll make a motion to extend the ad hoc budget committee's work for 2 additional months to go through the end of February 2021.
Second.
Are there further questions or discussion? Ms. Bell?
Ms. Fowler?
Yes.
Mr. Lane?
Yes.
Dr. Roberts?
Yes.
Ms. D. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Vowell?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Ms. S. Jones, Ms. Rhodey Collins,
Yes.
motion passed.
Board member reports. I'll start with you, Susan. Joyce.
I'll start with the curriculum committee, just to bring the board up to date. The STAR and Scantron testing continues. There were some questions around grading, specifically at the high school level, and this may be something that Dr. Knight might want to share in another meeting, Dr. Adams. There were issues with Zoom and students showing up. What I did learn is that the district does have an equity point person. I believe the name is Shahid.
Casey Shahid, that is correct. Last name used to be Seals, that is correct.
Okay, and presently they're working on options for student voice and to redesign school as we know it and innovate. There's a focus on empathy so that we create a sense of belonging with our students. The ACT test will be taken on site. And for this year, because of COVID, there will be the National Assessment for Educational Progress will not take place. On to the Council of Great City Schools. I'm on a Zoom call every week with board representation from across the country. COVID remains top of mind, and in-person and virtual is challenging across the country. We were reminded that the board's focus should be on student achievement and operation accountability. And the theme, they've also met with the Biden-Harris transition on behalf of schools, and I have emailed, or Ms. Bell has assisted me in emailing all of the specifics to every board member. But the theme moving into 21 is reopen, recovery, and reimagine public education after COVID. Any questions?
Adam.
Just one, Dr. Roberts, is it possible to be added to that Zoom call with CGCS, GS?
I will send you the link.
Oh, thank you. I don't have a report. I would just like to express gratitude to this board, Dr. Adams and your staff, for making sure that we could get the questions and have everything run as smoothly as possible tonight, and for the decisions that we have to make.
Regina.
Nothing for me.
Donna.
None at this time.
Thank you, everybody. I know this has been a long night. I appreciate you all hanging in there. Thank you to all of you who made this evening happen, and we really do appreciate it very much. With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. No, I need a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Susan, you want a second? Great. Ms. Bell?
Ms. Fowler,
Yes.
Mr. Lane,
Yes.
Ms. D. Jones.
Yes.
Dr. Roberts, Ms. Bowell,
Yes.
Ms. S. Jones, Ms. Rhodey Collins.
Yes.
We're adjourned.
Happy birthday, Ms. Vanoy.
Oh, thank